Good evening, everyone. This is Elena Bartash, your real estate investor. Today, my podcast, as usual, about private money in real estate. And I love my podcasts because usually my guests are really cool people, full of knowledge, full of experience, and really my goal to bring you guys best value we can. And today I am extremely lucky because today my guest is my friend, private lender, hard money lender, Lee Nugent. Lee has a massive experience in real estate, not only as a lender. He knows all kitchen from inside and from outside. He done lots of deals, and now he mostly focused on private lending. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Lena. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Thank you so much for agreeing to come here again. I'm so excited
Yeah.
because today you will be doing a deal breakdown for our guys live.
Yes, we'll discuss some of the ways to make your deal more attractive to a private money lender. I've got a brief
Yes.
presentation that I'll work to go through, and hopefully, the audience they'll engage with some comments, some questions. That way, we can address them live.
Yep. I hope so. I hope we have today curious audience, and if not too curious, this video will stay in my YouTube channel, and people will be able to ask you directly because I'm going to put link for to you YouTube under this video, and people can reach out to you.
All right, great.
Okay, okay. Do you want us to share screen right now?
Sure. Just whenever you're ready, I'll do this just brief presentation that I've put together, and
Yeah.
hopefully, it will invite some conversation.
Perfect. Oh, you know what? Probably I'm a little bit too fast. I believe not everyone knows you. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, actually, I even have that in the slides, so I'm more than happy to share that as well. So, a couple things about me. I actually started well Thursday, the 24th, will be our 10th year anniversary of the first property that we've purchased. So that's going to be a decade in real estate officially, right? And that's by doing a rental property.
Mm.
It all started with a rental property. Started with $6,000 in seed money, and then it grew and grew over the past decade to a number of rental properties. And then in 2020, I started doing private money lending. So over the past almost 5 years now, I've been growing that aspect of my business, even to the point to where I launched a equity fund or a private debt fund, if you will, providing other investors the ability to borrow money so that they can purchase flips, provide rental properties to their portfolio, refinance out, a lot of creative deal structure to make those kind of things happen. And well, that's where I'm at today, just continuing that journey.
Impressive experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, dokie. So it's time right now for us to share your
Yes.
screen. Here it is.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and start pushing through. So, as the audience comes on here, or even anybody that watches this after the live stream ends, if you have questions, I welcome you to please reach out. I've got a library of content that I publish, and I love coming on to other shows such as yours, Lena, to really just kind of share and hopefully inspire other investors to start to take that action. Don't let a lack or a perceived lack of money stop you from doing the deals. Get creative, and we're going to go into that a little bit more today. Again, just to
Thank you,
reiterate
Lee.
who I
Thank you.
am. I'm sorry.
Just told you. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Oh, my pleasure. You're fine. Well, just to reiterate again, this is more about me. Feel free to pause it if you want. But we're just going to keep it going for the sake of time. Now, understanding the mindset of a lender is important if you're wanting to borrow money from a lender. So, just a few things that I personally think about when somebody requests a loan from me is I ask, what is my risk? how can I, or how can the operator execute the deal, and can they do it effectively? How fast will I be repaid, and what happens if it goes sideways? Now, I will
Mhm.
say, before we really dive into this much further, that private lenders, some have a lot of systems and processes, some are extremely basic in their underwriting process. And some really don't even have that. They just say, "Oh, I believe in you more than I believe in the deal." So this is really going to be subjective based on the private money lender that you're working with. What lenders really look for are going to be a number of things, and that's going to say, number one, the numbers matter the most for me, right? I'm not necessarily looking at somebody's credit score in these deals. I'm underwriting the asset. What does that look like?
Mhm.
What does it look like? And am I able to really protect myself and hedge against a lot of the risk? Then obviously I'm going to look at the borrower profile. Are they a first time borrower? Is that a hard pass for me? No, I've worked with first time flippers before. As a matter of fact, I've already got one first time flipper. He just went full cycle on his first project, and now he's already looking for the next. Do you have a track record? Are you a newbie? Do you have skin in the game? Are you looking for 100% financing? These are all going to be factors that I'm looking at. And well, the deal story. I want to know why this property, this location, and this particular time. Are you seeing opportunity where other people aren't? And if so, can you help me see the same vision? I want to share a couple red flags. Now, this is going to kill the deal extremely fast for me if your comps are unrealistic or if you have an inflated ARV, and that's going to be your after repair value. If you don't have a clear exit, if you say, well, I don't know, I might refinance it, I might flip it, I might hold it, I just want a deal. I can tell you right there, typically you just shut the door right there on that deal for me. If you have poor communication or a lack of transparency, I'm going to lose interest in working with you. If you have a weak rehab budget, if you just have it scribbled down on a napkin that paint $5,000, flooring $2,000, but you don't actually have it put together, that's another red flag. And then, first and foremost, is really the attitude. Are you receptive to feedback? Or are you going to call me acting like you're doing me a favor by borrowing money from me? And if you can't be bothered to follow the process that I have, well, we're just not going to work together.
Mhm. Lee, if you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit.
Absolutely.
Could you please go back one page back?
Yes.
Yes, and so bullet number one, unrealistic comps or unflattered RV. So this is a big issue for some investors, I know, comps. Could you please
It really is.
tell us a little bit how you do your comps and what is the best way for us to find our comps?
All right. Now, some people they're going to feel a little bit differently about what I say here. What I believe in is I look at data, not speculation. And by that, I mean, let's look at a 0.25 mile radius around the property, the subject property. If I can see enough homes that have sold within the
Mhm.
last 3 months, then we're going to really use that as a hyper local comparable, right? Now, those are going
Mhm.
to have to be similar bedroom, bathroom, similar square footage, similar year built, and similar condition of the properties that are selling in the area. A lot of people, they like to go out here and they have this vision of grandeur. They're going to really make this house the new best thing on the block, and they're going to set the comps for the area. Those aren't necessarily the investors that I want to work with. The ones that I want to work with
Mhm.
are going to be more rational in that sense. They're going to look at the data
Mhm.
and say, okay, we've had 3 homes sell at X amount per square foot. And that's the key word. They have sold, which means that the market is telling me that they're willing to pay this price for that home in that location in that condition. That's a big thing because otherwise you are speculating. You're hoping that people can get there.
Yeah.
And I have so many investors that they reach out and they show me comps that haven't sold yet, that are on the market for 180 days, 200 days. And then I ask them, do you really feel like this is a valid comparable for
Mhm.
the subject property?
Mhm.
Because obviously it's overpriced if it's been on the market that long. There's something that is holding that back from selling. And typically it's just the market saying that it's overpriced. To me, that is what unrealistic comps are. If you tell me that
Yeah.
classically, yes, the comps are $200 a square foot in a given area, yet you're trying to get $300 a square foot. I'm not going to be as enthusiastic about the deal as you probably hope I
Yep.
would.
Mhm. Lee, what would be your suggestion? Because sometimes, sometimes very difficult to find comps. Nothing was sold similar in that area, even within 5 miles, even within 6 months. So, what would be our next step? How to find correct comps?
Well, I'm never afraid to order an appraisal. And whenever I have a difference of opinion with a borrower and they feel like it should
Mhm.
be X and I feel like it should be Y, then we go to an appraiser. We have a professional determine what the value is as is, and then an as complete valuation based on the scope of work that's given. It's
Okay.
a small price to pay
So,
for a lot of peace of mind.
Mhm. Yeah. So, yeah, this is a great solution. It will work for you, right? If you cannot find comps,
That's right.
appraisal, always. Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. A couple things that I actually enjoy seeing whenever I get a loan request is number one, if it's a new borrower and they have a deal deck or they actually present their deals well, if they put it through anything like deal check or something to where it's nice, it's structured, it's clean to read, then it makes it easier on me. Like I tell people, if you make
Mhm.
it easy for me to do business with you, then generally we can do business. But if you make it difficult, I'm going to go where people are making it easier to work with, right? Third
It
party
makes
contractor.
sense.
If you
Mhm.
tell me that you're going to go over here and fix the house up yourself, well, I'm going to want to see your contractor license. I'm going to want to know that you've actually got responsibilities and licensing for what you're looking to do. Unfortunately, I'm past the point in my need to lend money to somebody that hasn't got the professional licenses or the history of what they're doing. So I would
Mhm.
encourage anybody that if you're wanting to do this yourself, go get the appropriate remodeler's license, understand the permitting process and everything else so that a lender can still do that. Even then, some lenders still won't allow you to do the work on your own property. So third
Mhm.
party contractor bids, they're great. I love seeing those come through because I can verify the license of the contractor. I can see that they are a professional in their field. That's a big part for me. Personal funds already
Mhm.
committed. Basically, if you have EMD out, you already tell me that you've got 10%, 20% that you're bringing down, and so you're not looking for full leverage from me. Those are things that make me just kind of swoon. I'm like, oh, they know what they're doing, and then I want to work with them, right? And then, of course, if you have anything extra, like proof of demand, if you can tell me that, hey, look, there's pre-listing interest. I've already got a few buyers that are wanting to buy in this area. I've got a realtor that has buyers that they're looking for something and begging me to get this on the market. Any pre-leasing or anything like that, if it's a rental property, so that I know whenever we go to refinance this under a DSCR as soon as it seasons, that we shouldn't have many problems getting that done.
Mhm.
Those are the things that really just make me say, all right, this person's a professional, and I love working with professionals. As far as positioning yourself, that's where you're telling me that you're worth investing in and investing on, right? There's a couple things that you can do, and I even created this investor credibility kit, and it shows the track record, testimonials, photos, details of past projects, your case studies, the things that would make it easier for me to look through and say, hey, look, I can go over here and I can check the history of these properties and I can see that they own the LLC that was on deed, on title. Fantastic. They legitimately
Mhm.
know what they're doing. And it's also just that social proof, and it reduces a lender's anxiety in a lot of these situations because one of the things that we're starting to see is the appraisals. And not only that, we're seeing the market kind of shift in certain areas. I lend in Louisiana and Florida, and then I've got, of course,
Mhm.
nationwide tax that I work with on other deals. However, if I'm putting my money on the streets, I'm going to want to make sure that I feel good about where it's going to, that the person that I'm lending to is a good steward of money. Now, if you respond to requests quickly and you're professional, bonus points, love it. But yeah, you can actually, if you look me up on social media, I've got socials at the end of this if you want me to share that. And they can DM me and I'll actually get them over a copy of the credibility kit template. And again, it's not going in an email list or anything like that. Just DM me and I'll get that over to you. This is
Perfect.
one part where I think a lot of people kind of get overwhelmed. They think like, hey, I don't have 20%, 25% to put down on a property. So I'm just kind of stuck. Well, I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit. I'm going to show you how you can do more of a capital stack to make these things work.
Mhm.
So if you look at the very bottom of this, there's a graph that says, hey, look, your senior lender, let's say that they take 70%. Well, you need a 30% down payment. How can you get that? Well, you can get 20% from a private capital. You can give away some equity, get another 10%. And please forgive me if you hear my dogs in the background. They're
Don't
vicious
worry. Everyone
killers.
loves dogs.
Yeah, they are vicious killers. So the mailman or mail woman must be outside. Um, and I'm going to lose my train of thought for just a second and got it back. So a lot of this is learning about where can I apply the down payment? Where can I leverage? And if you replay this in that about me section, the second slide, it has a quote by Archimedes. It says, "Give me a long enough lever and a place to stand, and I can move the world." Well, that's one thing that I believe in: responsible leverage. And by getting the equity play, by giving away some equity, or finding a JV partner to source the capital for that down payment,
Mhm.
now you're absolutely in the game, and you can make a few deals, and you can stack your capital to where you no longer need that capital partner, that equity partner. Now you can just use your own, or like some people, you scale. You start doing more projects, right? And now you're covering two, three, four projects with your capital. You're doing two, three, four projects with somebody else, and you're just keeping it
Mhm.
rolling. So those are just a few different ways that you can make that happen. And it's all going to be coming down to what we call lean position. Essentially,
Yep.
you've got senior debt. That's going to be the first one in, first one out. Like, hey, look, I'm going to get my money before anybody else. If you mess around and if you default, that's a big part, right? And that's the main type of lending that I do is senior debt. I don't mess around with mezz or mezzanine debt, second positions, tertiary positions, and I don't really play too much with equity. I really have to have a lot of trust with somebody to give any kind of equity play in a deal. So just something that you can look about. Now, I'm not going to dig too deep into this because that's what Google, YouTube, and all these other gurus are for. So feel free to go out there and dive into that information. But at least this will get your wheels turning as to what you can expect whenever you're looking at these deals and how to structure some of these deals. And
Mhm.
I think this is what we really wanted to kind of get to today, Elena, was the case studies. To kind of break down. This is what it looked like. This is how we did the deals. And I actually took this one, and then I've got a few more from. I told you earlier that I have a fund. So
Mhm.
whenever I'm talking to
Yep.
investors that they put their money to work passively, well, I show them some of the loans that I've done. So I'll share with you some of the loans that I've done, some of the ROI to a lender, which is what makes it, great for us, but also what you can kind of see the deal structure look like. This
Mhm.
example was a $350,000 after repair value. 245 was the total cost, and that included a
Mhm.
175 purchase price, 75K
Yep.
rehab. So they got a 225 private money loan. Now that was for 12 months at 12% interest, which means that that's 2250 a month, right? There were 2 points at closing, so another $4,500 in fees, and then the total loan to value, right? So keep in mind
Mhm.
that some lenders, when they have a certain level of sophistication, they're going to establish a box. Just like you as an investor, whenever you go to buy a property, you're going to have a certain
Mhm.
box that everything has to check to make that make sense. Well, lenders
Yep.
have what are called guidelines. So I'm going to go out here and say, all right, I will loan you this amount. I'll loan you up to 80% of the purchase price. So if you want $100,000, I'll loan you up to 80% of it. You're going to have to bring 20%. However, of that additional cost, the rehab cost, I'll fund 100% of that. However, the
Mhm.
biggest challenge, the total loan to value, right? So the total loan amount that I'm lending you cannot at any time exceed 70% of the total ARV, which means your total after repair value could not, if it's say 70% of the total ARV, and we're looking at a $200,000 house that has the ARV, I will not loan you a
Mhm.
dollar of $140,000. Anything above that, you're going to have to bring outside of our deal, outside of our loan. And that's just to, again, keep enough equity, enough cushion into the deal so that if you end up messing around and I have to get the property back and finish the project to dispo the project, I'm at least doing so with minimal risk or at least as little risk as possible to my
Mhm.
capital. Okay.
Yep.
And there was, again, a
Y-
$50,000 draw for repairs. So this was just a quick
Yep.
clean, and it actually funded. I want to say they did this in like 7.5, almost 8 months. So they didn't quite pay, the full 12%. They only paid about 7.5 to 8%, really, on that money once you annualize it out.
Yes,
And
Lee,
that,
if you don't
yeah,
mind,
absolutely.
let me please interrupt you a little bit. I'm so sorry, don't want to be not polite, but I really would
No, no,
love
no.
our
Please interrupt.
people and include myself get deeper in all your numbers. So
Yeah.
you see, personally, me, I have some concerns working with lenders because not always interest and LTV, it's all you guys want to see, and it's all you will include in your underwriting.
Mhm.
Points, different setup fees, different TC fees, title fees, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes this amount altogether will come up to several thousand, which we don't have
Yeah.
into our underwriting. And it's really big concern because I've tried to speak with several lenders, private lenders, hard money lenders, and I told them, guys, please, I would love working with you because I'm building team right now. I will be ready to go in a couple of weeks, really fast. I just really want to have this relationship to be predictable. I really would love to see how you break down all your numbers, how you structure your deals to
Yeah.
not to get any surprises after I bring you a deal, right? So while I negotiate with agent or with homeowners, I want to have this exact number that would work for you. So could you
Yes.
please tell me a little bit more? So I see you charge 2 points at closing. What are the
Mhm.
other fees you, for example, and your team, you guys charge investors?
Yeah. Well, and a couple things. I'll go ahead and give you some more context on this. So
Mhm.
keep in mind that this is one loan that closed with 2 points. I've had some loans where I was charging 5 points, and it really comes down to supply and demand, right? The less capital I have to lend, the more expensive it becomes, and it really depends on the deal, right? A lot of this that you want to look at, Elena, is there are certain standard fees, right? So you've got your title, your abstract. You're going to have any interest and prepaids, such as let's say, for example, we're going to prepay your taxes. We're going to prepay your interest. I'm sorry, your insurance for 6 months. Those are a lot of things, a lot of expenses that when people start to see it, they're like, "Oh, this is so expensive." But what they don't realize is that's less monthly that you actually pay. It's just prepaid. Now, a lot of people they do see this and get what's called sticker shock. And that's why I would say anytime you're getting ready to work with a private lender, then contact them and say, "Hey, can we run a quick scenario?" Right? And that's just basically me saying, "I've got a hypothetical deal. I want to see what your term sheet would look like." And a term sheet would say, "I want to see your fixed costs." And those fixed costs can be wire fees. So it costs the bank charges me to wire money out, and I pass that cost
Okay.
along to the borrower. When I get title insurance, a lender's title policy, well, I'm going to pass that cost on to the borrower. A lot of the times, people, when they see these fees, they realize one thing or two things. One thing, they realize, like, oh my goodness, this is more expensive than I thought. Or the second thing,
Yep.
they didn't allow for the cost of financing. And whenever I run a deal, even with my money, right, even with mine, because I have what's called opportunity cost. If I say yes to this over here and I only have a finite amount of money, I'm automatically saying no to another deal over here. So whenever I'm looking at a flip for myself, I underwrite it as if I'm paying for hard money, right? And I know some people are saying, why? Well, it's because I'm losing out on that money whenever I put it to work over here under a different flip. So I have to make sure that I'm focusing on making my money when I buy versus thinking
Mhm.
about it only when I sell, which means that sometimes I have to go back to the table and explain to the seller, hey, look, based on this and the repairs, I understand that we had an as is deal and you're free to refuse any repairs or any allowances and we can cancel the deal. But I would encourage you to go back and negotiate your deal to allow for that. Or the best thing to do is whenever you're making your offers, already have in mind how much that private money is going to cost you. And that's where having the conversations with your lenders before you need them is important.
Okay. Yes. Yes, it's extremely, extremely important. Okay. So could we please still go a little bit back and I would really I have a pen, have a piece of paper, and I would love
Yeah.
to make a list of hypothetically unexpected costs that could come out from your side. I mean, whoever, from bank, from hard, right? You
Mhm.
just mentioned wildfires, you just mentioned title insurance. So everything could come out from your side and could be unexpected for investor. And we can at least give people approximate understanding of numbers of these
Yeah.
costs.
Now, with that, you have to understand that some of these different markets will have different fees. Some lenders have
Okay.
different amounts. So, as we go through this, you're going to have, let's say, for example, if we're in Florida, I might have an appraisal
Okay.
fee of $650 because that's the going market rate for an appraisal. Versus in Louisiana, I might only charge somebody $300 because we've got appraisers there charging less. So now I can
Mhm.
give you some of these different fees. You've got, again, origination fees, which are when you hear the term 12 and 2, the and 2 is typically referring to the origination fee. And you've got the
Mhm.
underwriting fees, and that can range anywhere from 350 to hell, I've seen some as high as $1,500. Now I haven't charged that, but some people do. You've got your standard
Mhm.
processing fees, and a lot of these can be seen as administrative costs because I myself, if I was a one person show and I'm doing everything myself, then obviously could I waive those fees? Yeah. But I might put
Mhm.
them somewhere else. I might charge higher origination fees, right? But whenever I have
Mhm.
staff, such as an originator, such as an underwriter, that's where I charge those fees for them while they're blocked off for those so that I know whenever I get these fees in, they're earmarked for that overhead expense without getting too technical about it. I hope that makes sense. Um,
Yep.
doc preparation fee, right? Doc preparation fee is another one to where whenever we're getting the mortgage, the instruments all together and attorney reviewed, attorneys, I've had one charge me $1,000 before just for the mortgage preparation. And again, am I the lender who's expecting to make
Mhm.
X amount of money, or X amount of interest? Am I going to absorb that or am I going to pass that on to the borrower? I'm going to pass it along to the borrower. You've got, again, we've covered the appraisal, the BPO fees, flood determination. That's another one. Uh, that's where essentially they're going to go over here and they're going to run through a few websites just to determine if it's in a flood zone, if it's flood zone X or AAE, any of those. Let's see.
Okay. How much it potentially could be? Just approximate.
For flood
Let me.
determination, $50 typically, because it's a very quick thing, but it is something. It's like calling an attorney, right? They're going to
Mhm.
charge you every 15 minutes of work that they do. So if you see where they're going to charge that, it's been fairly standard from what I've seen there. Um,
Mhm.
again, you've got legal fees. One big one, Alina, that people don't don't account for because it's typically not charged up front is going to be your inspection or your draw fees. Um, when somebody flips a house, and let's go back to that example, you bought it for 80, or you had me finance eighty thousand
Mhm.
dollars and another $50,000 for the rehab. You get your initial 10,000 of that 50, for example, and we've still
Mhm.
got three more draws. So I still owe you $40,000 that we're going to split across three draws. But yet, every time you call me, I have to verify that the project is completed, right? That it's going along the route that we should have it along the timeline. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I've had people go over here and they think that they are smarter than the system sometimes. So they'll tell me, hey, I'm ready for this draw. I've got X, Y, and Z done. I'm like, all right. And whenever I was newer into this, I was a little bit more trusting than I am now. So I would tell them, all right, shoot me some photos and let me go and I'll issue your check.
Mhm.
Until one day I caught somebody catfishing. Right. So what they did was they had everything over here out of the field of view. And they only shot angles from two angles.
Mhm.
Then whenever you turned around, there was a whole wall missing. And that wasn't part of the draw agreement, right? Part of the draw, the first draw, was to get through demo and rough carpentry. When there's a wall missing,
Mhm.
pretty rough, and you're missing the carpentry. So they were trying to advance their draw. And, lo and behold, as we kind of talked a little bit and kind of got back on, I guess you would say, good terms, because I didn't appreciate the deceit. And if somebody
Mhm.
does that, you just completely eliminated any trust that I had in you. So now we will engage a third party company that will go out and they'll take the photos, they'll upload it onto an online portal, and then
Mhm.
a licensed contractor will go and estimate, weigh it against the scope of work, and say, all right, you're X amount complete. They're good for the next draw. So
Mhm.
it's not cheap. It's about $250 to $350 per draw, depending on the project. So I make sure that
Mhm.
people understand, while you're not paying that today on the term sheet, it is a cost of your loan. Because in the promissory note and the documents, you're going to end up signing that you agree to this system, to this schedule of payment.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Okay. And
Yes,
then
it makes
let's
sense.
see. Yeah.
Lee, I have another
Um,
question, if you don't mind. So you
yeah,
see,
absolutely.
especially
Fire
for
away.
thank you, especially for beginners, it's very difficult to predict all these costs, and
It is.
sometimes I believe we would need to put in our underwriting something approximate to cover all these small costs. Could you please give me one or couple examples how much we potentially could put to not to get any bad surprises? Five
And
grants,
again,
10 grants.
I think that's where getting with a lender and getting a preliminary term sheet, right? So you can see their fixed costs, and because some are still subjective, right? Like for example, your lender's insurance policy, right? The lender title policy, that's going to be subjective on the property value, so it's going to change.
Mhm.
But however, they should have standard wire fees. They should have standard inspection fees. They should have the standard underwriting, processing, origination. All those fees should be able to be listed so that you can review that and say, okay, it's going to cost me $2,000, $20,000, however much that would be.
Mhm.
That's where I would say, and I mean, it can range between 1 to 5% of of a loan, as far as just your other fees that add up. So it's really going to come down
Okay.
to what are you looking at and the price point of that home. Long story short,
Oh,
I would encourage you
okay.
to just get with the lender and get a preliminary term sheet, because their terms or their fees are going to be different than mine. Mine are going to be different than theirs oftentimes.
Mhm. And you just mentioned something around 5% maximum, right? Very
Yeah, just
approximate,
kind
just
of
to
a
give.
rule of thumb guideline. Some people can say estimate between 1 and 5%.
Oh, great. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Um, A couple other things, just to wrap it up off the top of my head on these things, is you've got your default interest fee, you've got any kind of servicing fee. Some lenders, I haven't charged a servicing fee, but some lenders charge servicing, which means that they'll they'll basically engage a company that you will pay your monthly note to every month. And with the amount of loans that I do as a private money lender, it's not something that I feel I need to charge people for or even
Mhm.
engage in service in. So I just self service.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's. I think that's about all of them that comes to the top of my head. I don't have a term sheet in front of me to pull that. On the next time we talk, I'll make sure that I have one.
Perfect. Let's do it.
All right. No, it's a great question. Thank you.
Okay.
So
Thank you
here
so much.
are
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So here are a couple quick case studies, right? So what I did, and I'm going to see if I can increase. No, it's going to cut that off. All right. I'll read some of the slides where essentially some lenders wouldn't touch these deals. I'm the lender that, again, I want people to be successful. I want them to go out here, be able to build their dreams. And sometimes it doesn't happen in $1 million houses. Sometimes it happens in $30,000 duplexes where they need $70,000 to fix it up. And what I did at that point was I gave them the draw system out the gate. So this was a $70,000 loan so that they could fix the property up. And side note, real funny story. We actually have a couple duplexes in the same neighborhood, so it was fun to help improve the area. And they came in there and set the new appraisal values. But all that to say, they contacted me about the property. They owned it outright, but they needed 70K for the rehab. The loan wasn't all given at once. We just did a rehab loan, so where it was given out in construction draws. And this was a $70,000 loan, 4 points for the loan fee. It was 4 months,
Mhm.
12% APR, and they did get some extension fees that were built in. And since then, my extension fees have gotten a lot more agreeable. This was when I was somewhat newer in my lending, and whenever
Leo,
I,
sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you again. I have a question, and unless
yeah,
you on this page. Uh, Could you please explain rehab and refinance loan? So it means after rehab will be done, people are going to refinance it with DSCR, right?
that's correct.
Okay, but 70,000 was paid only for rehab.
Yes, that was just a loan to cover the rehab cost.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and I believe they had picked up the duplex for like $30,000. So it was they had already owned it outright, so we didn't need anything. I just took
Mm-hmm.
that collateral and I advanced $10,000 for that because to me, $10,000 into a $30,000 asset, I was comfortable enough to give them that and see enough improvement to give them the next $10,000. And then from there, I was
Mm-hmm.
able to give them $15,000 because they continuously improved the property and then we were able to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, the loan payment breakdown, my other investors, the ones on the other side, the ones that have capital, they love the returns from it. And one thing that I explain to people is a lot of investors, they have this mentality that they have to find the cheapest money out there. And I've had a couple of examples, and I'll share some details with one in particular. They went with the cheaper money, and then 2 months later, they called me because they were unable to get that money. They were self-funded at this point. They didn't have the money to finish a flip project that they wanted to flip, and they ended up buying a property cash because cheaper money never even came through for them. They just said that they would, so they canceled the loan with me. And then they asked
Mm-hmm.
me if I would be interested in buying a particular property. And I explained to them, no, I don't want to pick up your property, but I will fund the deal and we can get back on good terms. Everything's good. I'm not mad that you went to somebody else, but you just hopefully learned the lesson that cheap money isn't always the best money, and so
Mm-hmm.
long as you allow for the cost of your funds in your deal, you can still make it happen. I often explain to people, does it matter to you if I make money and you make money? Or is it only you that should ever make money? Oftentimes
Mm-hmm.
people realize, okay, that's what it is. It's not a charity. I'm in here to loan money to help people enable and grow their dreams, but also I've got dreams too. So
Of
here's
course.
another one. This was a fairly clean fix and flip. It was 12% APR, 6 months, loan fee, 3 points, $300,000. Again, we annualized it out at 18%, so it was a pretty good, pretty clean deal. They didn't, even though you'll see here, purchase price, rehab budget, you'll notice that there was initial draw and then two subsequent draws. They didn't necessarily on this one, they didn't take all of their funds, right? They didn't draw it all down. So they were able to get it,
Mm-hmm.
finish it before they needed to do all the draws. Here's
Yep.
another one,
Clear.
again, fix and flip. So we just 12%, same thing. You'll see kind of a trend, right? Where I and my investors, we expect a certain amount of return for us to put our money to work and at risk. Well, actually, you know what? I think we got ahead of it. Whenever you asked about the fees, I even had a slide in here discussing the fees. So we'll hit that real briefly. Um, real couple things, or a couple little things. The lender, we're going to do what we feel is best to protect our interests, which means our capital. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to hedge against any kind of perceived risk. Sometimes the risk is just saying no. It's not going to be a fit. Um, but that's where we'll do draws throughout the project. We'll inspect, and depending on the involvement, they're going to be more conservative if we have to do handholding. If you're a first time borrower, for example, and you're wanting me to sit there and go through the process with you every time you call for a draw or these kind of things, then we're going to account for the time, for the intensity that we have to put through this. And oftentimes, these first time borrowers, I don't know, they're naive, right? Is the best way to put it. They don't understand the ways that contractors can take advantage of you. So, for example, if I didn't put you on a draw system, if you go out here and you buy a property and it's going to be $150,000 loan, and I give you the whole 150,000 up front, and 80 for the purchase and 70 for the rehab, and you go to the contractor and you say, "Hey, got your check," and you give them the check. What do you do if they never show up for work? If they never swing the first hammer? Do you
Mm-hmm.
go magically find another $70,000 to make me good? You're not going to have it. So that's why we implement things to help protect you along the way, but also protect us. The fees right here, we kind of went over that earlier. So just understand appraisal,
Mm-hmm.
origination, wiring, servicing, rush fees. I have done that before where somebody's offered me $500 to, kind of pull later hours than I wanted to do and rush them a loan for the next day. And well, I was able to do it, but it came with a cost. I would tell people the best thing to do is to just be proactive in your loan. Don't come to somebody the day before closing and say, "Hey, look, I really need this money today, so I need you to underwrite everything else in the next 5 hours," and then
Mm-hmm.
be willing to talk by 10 a.m. the next day. So a lot of this kind of comes down to how well planned are you. Here's a few truths to face. Some people, and I know a lot of people, go over here and say 100% funding. You can do this, you can do that, so long as you buy my $20,000 course. You don't need a
Mm-hmm.
$20,000, right? Not for some of these things. I do believe that masterminds and communities have their place. I really do. I've learned that over the years that you can really make a lot of great decisions with people. And if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? And with that, it's not a myth, but it's also not something that you're just going to go knock out the first time. Not unless you've already got a reputation. You're going to have a lot of people in your circle that trust you, because if you are just some random off the street that calls me and says
Mm-hmm.
that you need 100%, man, I'm going to treat you like you've been calling me about my car warranty. I'm not going to pay too much attention to that because, well, you don't have the track record for me to believe in you, right? And we do want to see you succeed. We're also going to protect ourselves. So the other
Mm-hmm.
term is um, the golden rule. They that have the gold make the rules. And it's a truth. Whenever I go to the bank and I ask them to refinance a loan for me, if I have no other options and they tell me that they're at 8%, am I going to pay the 8%, or am I going to lose the deal because I couldn't refinance it? Well, I mean, good thing that I planned ahead, because I know that the ones that have the money make the decisions ultimately. And you also have the decision to walk away and go find another lender. I'm always respectful of that choice too. Couple
Mm-hmm.
things that I tell people: if you take your project seriously, then we're going to take you seriously. If you establish the track record, and I would encourage anybody that watches this, that if you're on your first or 50th and you haven't done this yet, start tracking your projects. Get a list of them, put them out there, show the timeline, right? Build a resume so that I can sit here and say, you know what? John Smith knows his stuff. You know what? Kathy Johnson, she knows her stuff. I'm going to loan them money because they make it easy to work with. So if you are a
Mm-hmm.
professional in this realm, then we can be professional. So aside from that, Elena, here's the good thing. We're going to make like a holiday present and we're going to wrap it up. There's my contact information. There's a QR code if you want to follow me on my socials. And again, if you want to DM me for that credibility kit, more than welcome to do that. I hope that I haven't bored you too much on this presentation tonight.
Thank you so much, Lee. It was great presentation. I had
Yeah.
several questions, but you answered them. You actually touched base a little bit about newbies, and I would like you to come back a little bit to this topic and to give us kind of summarizing. So what newbies should expect from lender usually? What kind of extra information or anything?
So one of the things that I'm going to look at with any newer investor, I'm going to request your articles of incorporation, right? I want to see that. I
Mhm,
want to see what do your cash flows look like. I want to see how you are going to pay this monthly interest payment. Or do we have to do something a little bit more creative, right? So for example, let's say that you've got a capital partner who might own a couple properties outright with no mortgage attached to it. Well, there are times
mhm,
when I will secure the collateral of the first position on the subject property, but also if you've got a couple rentals, then we'll do a cross collateralization plan, which means I'll do one mortgage for all of these, and I'll increase that loan amount for you, so that now you have enough and you've prepaid your interest for the next 6 months, and we're good to go. You've got your draws, you're secured, everything else. Now that's kind of a hybrid of what I do, and somebody
mhm,
has to have it, right? So I've worked with things like that. But ultimately, as the lender, I want to see, do you have the ability to even repay this loan? That's the biggest part. So I'm going to look at your checking account. I want to see what's coming in, what's going out, and how much is left over. If you can't service the debt and you can't pay for the insurance and you can't, pay your property taxes,
mhm.
what can I do to help you? So at that point, I would tell you that you're going to be better off finding a capital partner or another operator that you can kind of tag team with to make this more successful.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much. And my next question was about collateral, but you probably answered already this question. So it could be great support, but not everyone has collateral. And is this your requirements and usually requirements from lenders? So how we can avoid collateral if people really cannot, don't have?
Um, well, you're going to have a personal relationship with somebody that trusts you without collateral.
Mhm,
Otherwise, I know I personally, I wouldn't do that loan just simply because, again, the subject property is great, but it has to have so much equity in it. And that's perfectly fine. If you went and you knocked a deal out the park and you have
mhm,
a house that's worth $300,000 as it sits and you need $150,000, I might be able to work with that. I might be able to say, you know what, there's so much equity here, and you're only asking for a
mhm,
100,000 purchase. I might fund it all, right? But it has to be a strong enough deal for me to say I can take this if they default and still be made whole.
mhm,
Again, my risk mitigation. I want to make sure that above all else, I can get my capital back because those are my soldiers, right? And they go to war, and I need them all to come back so that I can put them back out there and go to war again. That's ultimately what we really want to focus on is the preservation of that capital.
mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lee. Guys
Yeah.
who are watching us right now, please, we have a couple more minutes and feel free to ask Lee questions if you have any. For those who will be watching us in the future, so I'm going to put his social media link under this video. Also, I'm
Um,
going to put his website, link website, and please
yeah.
reach out to Lee directly with all your questions.
I'm
Yep,
trying to
and
remember
Lee
what
probably lost.
question I just
Huh?
saw Richard. I just saw Richard's comment. You're screwed. I'm just wondering which question or which example that was that he commented. So Richard, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to answer that for you. Alina, I will also say just as we get ready to go, being a good borrower means becoming an educated borrower. You don't have to know everything on your first deal. However, you have to be willing to learn and be coachable through that process. I actually had one
Mhm,
lender who brought a great deal, and I funded it for them. I prepaid their interest for them for 8 months. We did again, it was
mhm,
very creative, made it happen. But at the end, the very end of the deal, he decided he wanted to make the rules and tell me that he wanted me to send him the signed, paid in full notice and all this before he made his payment. And I explained to him that's not how it's going to work. And we literally went back and forth, and I had to take time to get an attorney involved to where he had legal advice, legal counsel explain to him that that's not how this works. So then he relented. He paid me off. I sent off the paid in full note and everything, the promissory note, so that it could all be recorded and the collateral mortgage be canceled. And then, not even a month later, he reaches out for another $50,000. What do you think I said whenever he asked for
it? I don't use such words.
Yeah, exactly. I told him no, right? I said I can't help you. And then he reached out. He asked for 15,000 like last week. Same answer. I can't help you because you made it miserable for me to do business, and I will always choose peace over profits. So it doesn't matter what interest rate you were offering me. You could have offered me 100%. I wasn't doing the deal. So just some parting wisdom to the audience. Be coachable, be willing to learn, but also educate yourself. And yes, Richard, that's right. When the contractor runs off, yeah, you're screwed. So anyway, Elena, thank you for having me on tonight. I hope that it brought some value to your audience and that it cleared up some of the confusion or mysticism around private money.
It definitely was, absolutely. Especially, really, I love all these small nuances you mentioned, all these hidden fees. At least people right now need to understand we need to put something in underwriting, something extra, at least couple percent of their loan amount, right? To predict our unexpected costs. It's really important. Yeah, it's important.
And if you really want to minimize unexpected surprises, just talk to the lender beforehand and really just get a copy of their term sheet and say, well, I know it's going to be this, this, and this. So it really minimizes those surprises.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Great relationship upfront first and then good deals.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Lee. It was awesome podcast as always. Let's do it again. Let's bring more value to people.
All right.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Guys, thank you so much for being today with us. It was my second podcast with Lee, and he is full of knowledge, and I believe you received today something new for you. He taught you something really important. So yeah, to be in real estate, it's not easy. Sometimes it's scary, but we don't have any other choice just to move forward. So just find good lender, start conversation, build this relationship, and ask questions. No, there is no silly questions. You know it. Thank you so much. And guys, if we have any private lenders here, I'm always open to start building relationship because I'm a real estate investor myself. And please reach out to me. And if you need consultation from Lee, don't feel shy and click his social media link below this video and talk to him. Thank you so much, everyone, again, and have a wonderful evening.